So patch notes 11.2. I'm gonna skip over the stuff that I, like an idiot, forgot to record, but we're gonna go through it quickly. Sorry, not skip over it. So Viego's coming out. I personally I haven't played him on the PBE and I haven't talked to many people who have, so I don't know if he's gonna be strong or not. I just like seeing the new champs on the first week. I'm not gonna try and speculate too much. Looks like a really cool kit. Looks like kind of an assassin, bruiser assassin style champion, but we'll see. Patch highlights, and they made some item changes that I think Mark Yetter posted about on Twitter. So they nerfed Akali, which I think was good. I think she was a decent flex pick. They nerfed her Q by 20 energy at rank 5, which I think is fine. I think she was too safe in a lot of matchups. Late game, now it'll make her, at least, it won't make her Q as spammable. She'll have like probably one less Q in like the entire team fight if it goes through. Azir, they buffed Azir, but like I said earlier, Azir's matchups are still a little tough in lane. Like, if you can get out of early game and early mid game with Azir, I think you're fine. Most solo queue games are quite short, and also his early game impact is very low as a champ, and there's so many strong roaming mids that just dominate solo queue. I think in pro play, you might see more Azir. I think Azir could be played in pro play to a decent level. I just don't see him being super popular in solo queue. Similar to Caitlyn, I think Caitlyn could get really strong with all the Moonstone champs, but yeah, I mean, her lane matchup into Jhin is a bit rough. Her lane matchup into Kai'Sa is okay, but Kai'Sa outscales Caitlyn. So that's the only issue with Caitlyn. But I think the small buff, like other AD carries besides Jhin Kai'Sa aren't that bad. People are just really into Jhin Kai'Sa right now. I think Jhin Kai'Sa are really broken, but other AD carries are somewhat playable. It's just like they're like normal power level. They're not completely busted like those two champs. Darius got nerfed, so this is Darius passive nerf. It's bonus 80 nerf. I don't actually know how much the late game nerf is going to be, but it definitely feels kind of strong. Like, this is a pretty hefty, that's like 30% of his level 1 passive damage taken away, which seems kind of insane, but it is bonus attack damage, so I don't exactly know how this works. I'll have to think about it and figure it out. But I don't see Darius a lot in high-low. He's just a very one-dimensional champion, so... Dr. Mundo. Q health refund on hit and on kill increased. E bonus damage increased. R health regen increased. Okay, so they gave you 50% of your health back on your cleaver hit. And if you kill, you get all your L back, which is actually insane. This is like so useful for CSing. This is actually going to help Mundo so much in lane for CSing, in my opinion. Because you CS with your Q pretty much like most of the time from a distance. Mundo buffs, you're happy? Masochism, they also buffed his E, so it gives him 1% extra of his max health. Okay, cool. I mean, sounds solid. We can take those. We definitely take those. And they also gave him 10% extra on his R, health regen. Sure. I mean, maybe we'll see some people try Mundo top and see if it's okay. Maybe. I personally think there's probably a bunch of matchups you can play this guy in solo queue and be strong in. He's kind of good against comps that are like heavy magic damage, I think, because magic damage comps struggle to deal consistent damage, except with like Cassio and things like that, and Lilia maybe. But Mundo is very good against like heavy magic damage comps. You can build stuff like Force of Nature and just run people down. You still have the prediction from 21 hours ago. Elise. Spider Q damage decreased later, so they nerfed Elise's damage. Okay. Elise has been scaling too well. Was Elise's win rate actually that crazy? I have seen some players playing her a little bit in the jungle, but I personally think she was like, she was an okay jungler. She had pretty high burst, she had pretty high damage, but I don't think she was like overly scary to play against. But I guess the win rates may have been a little bit too high, so they nerfed her. There's a lot of really good Elise players on the US, so the people who pick Elise generally know how to play her. She's not like a champ people pick when they don't know how to play her. So when you see an Elise, usually it's someone who knows how to play this champion. Ivern. They have nerfed Ivern's shield ratio. This is a big deal. This is actually a big deal. So this wasn't actually a nerf that went live in 11.1. It was just it was a placebo. It was a false flag, guys. It was a false flag nerf. So now they've actually nerfed him. Ivern's being played mid lane. Hell, I played it with Nemesis yesterday twice when he played Moonstone Ivern mid lane. This champion looks kind of stupid. This champion does definitely look kind of stupid, and it's super frustrating playing against this guy. This guy shields like every 4 seconds for like 400 HP or something stupid like that. It is really annoying playing against him. So I'm happy they nerfed him, but I don't know if this will be enough. I think he'll still definitely be like played a lot, and people will enjoy playing him because the Church of LS has signed everyone onto the Moonstone train. So yeah. LeBlanc, they increased her health growth, actually. Okay, so that's 5 health per level you get now, which is pretty nice actually. Level 10 you get extra 50 HP, not bad. And they nerfed her Q cost, her Q mana cost a little bit. I guess that's a buff, it's not really a nerf. But I personally think LeBlanc is totally fine, but you have to play a lot of games on her, and she's good in specific mid lane matchups. All of the standard matchups that she's good in. She also needs like a really active lane to play around, or a lane that she can actually like play with. That could also be the jungle. But I think she's, this buff is nice because LeBlanc doesn't get a lot of mana now in her item builds. From what I've seen LeBlanc's build, she doesn't get like a ton of mana, which is annoying because if you don't have blue buff, you're just gonna pop your spells a couple times in a team fight, and then you're like, okay, well now I'm useless. So it's kind of a good, good buff in my opinion. This was honestly, guys, this entire patch notes, this was the change I was looking forward to the most, dude. I hate this goddamn tree, bro. Maokai, I'm so glad they're nerfing this guy. I'm so freaking glad they're nerfing this guy. Mark Yetter, you're a beast. Smartest person in the universe. So they nerfed Maokai. Need I say more? This champ was so annoying in the support role. So annoying, man. And they nerfed him pretty hard, in my opinion. They gave 20 extra mana on the E, and that's what most Maokai's max, so that's a pretty big deal. That's a lot of extra mana that he has to spend in lane, and then on top of that, they nerfed the AP ratio on the E, which is even better, you know? So I'm happy about that. Honestly, what can I say? I'm happy about that. The mandate nerfs are bad for him as well. Yes, I'm glad. This guy was so annoying to lane against. It was like laning, I don't know, yeah. This guy was just so annoying to lane against. So super happy that they nerfed this dude. I think he'll still be playable, by the way. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he's like in the gutter now. I think he's just way less annoying and obnoxious. Because what he would do, like good Maokais, they would just arrive to dragon early. They would cover, it was like a Teemo. They would like cover the entire dragon area in like 6 different saplings, and you just could not walk near it without losing half your HP. And it was really obnoxious. And the only way you would beat it is by having tons and tons of shielding chaps. But if Maokai is on dragon, with his sapling set up, he has his R as well. You can't walk into his R, right? So it's just, there's no way of winning the Drake when Maokai sets up. It's really hard to beat that in solo queue because people aren't coordinated enough to, like, you know, everybody knows where the saplings are, so we all go around it, stuff like that. They buffed Nocturne. So they buffed Nocturne's Q cooldown, which is pretty cool. They buffed Nocturne's R cooldown, which is also pretty cool. So he has 10 seconds less on all levels on his R, which I think is a really big deal. His Q is also like one of his core chase abilities. So I think this is actually kind of a big buff. I think personally, Nocturne jungle, there's a lot of better junglers out there. I think Nocturne mid lane in certain matchups is actually okay. I think Nocturne top lane even is also okay with certain builds, Gore Drinker, stuff like that. It can be playable. I think this is a good, big buff for Nocturne. Maybe we'll see him in lane. I don't know about pro play, but we'll probably see him in some solo queue situations. Nunu. They have nerfed Nunu. Again, this is like the second thing on my list that I wanted after Maokai nerfs. God bless Mark Yetter, bro. So they nerfed Nunu, and this is great because in my opinion, Nunu is incredibly hard abused in all elos. So I'm really glad that Nunu's got nerfed, but I mean, he's still playable. They nerfed 5, they took off 5 move speed, they nerfed his health by 30. His health was very high. He had incredibly high base health, but now he has far less base health, which makes it a little bit easier to deal with him. But we'll see if these nerfs are really big. I think the move speed nerf is massive. I think the health nerf is less important. The move speed nerf seems pretty huge. Because everything about this champ relies on running around and being places fast. Aatrox, E's self-healing now increases during R. R's self-healing decreased. Okay. So Umbral Dash's self-healing now increases to 26, 32, all the way to 50 during R. And they nerfed the self-healing on R by pretty chunky amount. Okay. Fair enough. So you get extra healing from your E passive when your R is up. Is that what I understand, right? Champions like Aatrox Olaf are able to reach a scary state with massive burst healing. True. The moments where they feel untouchable aren't healthy, so we're shifting their healing to be sourced more from their kit rather from systems. So is this actually a nerf? Or is it just shifting the healing around? I don't exactly know if this is like straight nerf. We'll see. We'll have to see. W lifesteal increased, healing amplification decreased. Okay, so they gave him 2% more lifesteal, but they nerfed his healing amp, which is I think is a pretty big deal. Pretty big deal. That's gonna make, like, this is gonna make his super 10 HP Olaf changing 1v3ing people in River at level 4 much less likely, because his healing amp, this was what caused all of these 1v3 situations where he had like 40-50% healing amplification, and he was just smashing people, and then he would get a triumph proc, and that would proc him back up to like 500 HP or something like that. So I think this is a decent nerf. I think this is a nerf as far as I know, because 2% lifesteal doesn't seem like it's enough to make up for this, which is good. Because this champion is kind of nuts in solo queue when he gets Gore Drinker. Okay, Senna. They increase her attack speed ratio, which is pretty nice. Pretty nice. It's a pretty big attack speed ratio increase. They're trying to push her in support. Cool. Aiming to support Senna with more gold. Okay. So they 6% extra Wraith drop chance, and they gave her 5 extra gold from Wraiths. Okay. So I think when I read this on Marketer's Twitter, I misread it maybe, or misunderstood it, possibly. So this is actually kind of nice for support Senna, but you do get most of it. Like, a lot of your souls don't just come from lane; they come from hitting the opponents if you've got a good lane matchup. But still, this is really, like, I guess this is really nice for Senna. And then they gave her a massively increased healing ratio. 15% healing ratio is kind of nuts. Okay, you can build Kraken Slayer if you really want. Why would you do that? But okay. Mao doesn't even get more than 200 AP. Yeah, but I don't think it was like breakpoints. I don't think the Maokai change was like, oh, you need to hit 100% and then it'd give you 1% extra damage. I think it was like a gradual increase, if you know what I mean, right? So I think this is generally a nerf. It wasn't like you hit 100 AP and then immediately it switches on. Okay, they're increasing passive damage on Shaco's passive. Cool. That's actually a lot of damage. This champ is annoying as hell. Please don't play Shaco in my games. But, okay. Cool. Shaco's an annoying champ, what can I say? But, cool. I guess all the Shaco one-tricks out there, because only one-tricks play this champ. All of them are really happy. Pinkward's happy. Soraka. Q total rejuvenation heal increased later. W heal and health ratio increased. Alright, well, I mean, this is maybe going to turn Soraka into a solo laner again, but she still has very bad wave clear, so we'll see. Maybe Soraka support will become busted again as well. Who knows? A lot of people will try and probably play Soraka again because of Church of LS pushing Moonstone, so I think it's a pretty hefty buff, honestly. It's a pretty hefty buff. This is like quite a large buff to Soraka. I think they're trying to... I think it's because of Grievous Wounds, but I mean, we'll see. I still think this is kind of an insane buff, so I'm kind of scared that Soraka's going to show up in every game now, but maybe not. We'll see. Trundle. Q bonus damage ratio increase. Cool, I guess. 5% extra bonus AD damage ratio. Awesome. They gave him back a little bit of his attack speed on Frozen Domain. Or no, wait, maybe they nerfed his move speed a few patches ago, I think it was. But they gave him some attack speed, which is cool. It's cool. It helps his clear a little bit, and his Q also will increase his clear. I personally think that this champ is playable in the jungle against certain champions, but the champions he's strong against aren't really meta right now. Super heavy super tanks aren't super meta right now, so that's a big reason, in my opinion, why Trundle isn't like picked a lot. But as soon as the tanky champs start coming back into meta, I'm sure this dude will show up. Varus. So they increase his mana growth by a lot. That's a lot. That's a big increase. 7? That's pretty huge. That's like almost a fifth of his, more than a fifth increase in mana per level at least. And they decreased the cooldown on his R level 1, which I also think is a pretty huge buff, because every time Varus has R, he's actually a much safer laner and much more dangerous in lane. Like, everything that he does in lane is usually based around his R cooldown once he hits 6. It's just such a key ability for him. I think this is a pretty huge buff for Varus, to be honest. So we'll see. We'll see if people actually start playing him. I think Varus works pretty well into Kai'Sa, in my opinion. Not so well into Jhin in lane. It's not the worst into Jhin. I just don't think he's as strong. I think Jhin is one of the strongest laners right now. I think Kai'Sa is definitely Varus. Varus is okay into. Zoe. So this just looks like an update. We also removed Redemption. Oh, Paul. Okay, so this isn't actually even... This is kind of a nerf if they removed Redemption. Okay, you can get Randuin's, Locket, Turbo Chem Tank, Shirelia's, Youmuu's. Wow, that's kind of crazy. You can get Gore Drinker on Zoe. What? Oh my god, that's hilarious. Can you imagine, guys? Like, can you imagine taking Gore Drinker and Zoe, like, ulting into the team and Gore Drinkering? How hilarious would that be? That would be so funny. The ratio sucks, though? Oh, okay. Still, come on. It's the thought that counts, right? You can go Prowler's Claw. Hey, that actually might be kind of fun to play around with. Even Stridebreaker, because Stridebreaker is a dash. That's kind of cool. She can already get the really crazy items like Gale Force and stuff like that, so... Alright, cool. That's pretty hype. Essence Reaver. Okay, so they're buffing Essence Reaver. 40% of mana from damage dealt from Spellblade. So this is actually cool. I think this is a really big buff to Essence Reaver for a lot of champions that don't like to build mana. Because the 3% of max mana scales well if you build mana. But now that you don't have to build mana, it just gives you... It just gives you like the a percentage of your damage. I think it's actually viable on champs which build no mana items at all. I think this is kind of like a buff for champs like Sivir, for example, because if you start scaling and critting, like on a crit, you're going to get a lot of mana back. Oh, I assume it scales with crits. You're going to get more mana back than a 3%. But I need to double check the math, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be good. Ezreal buff pause champ? I don't know. I actually think this is a nerf for Essence Reaver on Ezreal, isn't it? Because Ezreal stacks a lot of mana, and 3% of a big number is probably larger than how much mana he'd get now just by hitting someone. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I wouldn't build Essence Reaver on Ezreal anyway, in my opinion, but that's just me. Gale Force. Okay. So they nerfed Gale Force's cooldown. It's now 90 seconds. I think this is a super needed nerf. Honestly, I don't need to explain this that much. You guys have all probably died to some insane Gale Force play. Like, this item is just busted, in my opinion. So they're nerfing it. Awesome. Cool. Next. Rocket Belt. They are also removing the bonus move speed from Rocket Belt. So this is actually kind of a nerf to champs like Echo and what else? Who else builds Rocket Belt? The first one I can think of is Echo. Honestly, who else even builds Rocket Belt? Can't think of too many champions that build Rocket Belt. So yeah, they're removing 20% of its move speed and they're reducing the duration, which is kind of nuts. But okay, I guess. I didn't see this item built a tremendous amount. Fizz sometimes, yep. Fizz. Imperial Mandate. Applies when the ally consumes the mark. Initial application of the slow/immobilize. So our priority is to move it out of the hands of solo laners and to simplify its confusing trigger condition. So okay, can anybody explain this change to me right now? Because I think I'm stupid. I think I can't figure this out. So previously you could hit somebody and the cooldown would only go off if your ally actually hit them. And now the cooldown goes off as soon as you slow or immobilize them. Is that how it works? The extra damage you get only applies once? Right, yeah. Okay, that is how it works then. Okay, cool. Straight nerf. We'll see if this actually changes how strong, you know, annoying champs like Maokai and other champs that build it are. But okay, if that's how it works, awesome. Cool. Kraken Slayer. So, Kraken Slayer is extremely powerful on champions that churn out on-hits. These abilities tend to have on-hit modifiers for this exact purpose. So Kraken Slayer will now leverage those modifiers of the following champion's abilities. Ooh. Okay. So you can get your Severum Q. That's the lifesteal one, I believe, right? That's the lifesteal gun. Katarina's R, Urgot's W. What does this even mean though? Leverage those modifiers. Does that mean Kraken Slayer procs do extra damage? Like Kraken Slayer procs on Katarina R? Because that seems kind of stupid. Holy moly. And Urgot. That seems kind of crazy. That is, if that's how it works, that's kind of interesting. That is kind of interesting, because imagine getting a Kraken Slayered by an Aphelios Severum Q. Dude, that guy attacks like 10 times in like 2 seconds. That's kind of nuts. I don't know if that's how it works, but it sounds interesting. Shirelia's Battle Song. So they nerfed the health by 150. That's a pretty big health nerf, but then They took away the bonus move speed and they gave it AP, which is really interesting. They also increased its mana regen and they changed its build path. So you build out of Kindle Gem and Boundal Glass, which I think is I personally think this is a better build path for backline supports, which Shurelya's is kind of designed for. It's not really like a turbo chem tank. It's not designed to try and be a Righteous Glory sort of item, in my opinion. That wasn't what they were going for, but it just happened to end up that way because it had a lot of HP. And I think this is the change that they need to make to push it towards enchanters, because again, I'm not going to be I don't want to build this on like a Nautilus Leona anymore, or like a tanky support and get AP. I don't really care that much about the AP. I want the health more than the AP. So yeah, I'd build this on other champions, backline champs that need mobility. But I still think Moonstone is just probably going to overshadow this item. If you're an enchanter and you've got heals and shields, you're probably just going to be building like shielding items. So I don't know. Shurelya's is just in a weird spot, just in a weird spot. Gargoyle's Stoneplate, they buffed it, gave the fortified bonus armor and MR to 5%. You can get 25% bonus armor and MR. That seems kind of nuts. Like, imagine an Ornn rolling up with a Stoneplate, like, goddamn. But then again, tanks right now are still, there's a lot of laners top lane that kind of shut down tanks, so. But yeah, this is actually kind of a big buff, so I liked Gargoyle's active. The active on this item is good. Cost effective, it was cost efficiency wasn't that high, but maybe you can build it on some super tanks now. There's probably like a breakpoint armor MR that it's actually really cost effective, but I need to actually ask somebody who knows how to do maths better than me. There's probably some sort of number that's like, holy crap, you build Gargoyle here, you get like 90% damage reduction or something like that. Lethality items. Lowering the cost of some utility lethality items to create a new division of 2600 gold AD items for both AD supports and traditional assassins. So Umbral Glaive reduced by 200 gold, reduced by 5 attack damage, and they changed the build path. So in my humble opinion, this build path is, I don't know actually. Is it better? Is it worse? I mean, it's better for supports. Umbral Glaive is now a better item for supports because you didn't care that much about the AD, and it's really important to get Umbral Glaive fast because then you can just start controlling the map. So I think this is a buff for support Umbral Glaive. For other champions, maybe, I mean, it might be a nerf in their endgame builds, but you can reach the item much quicker. And most champions that build it are like mid lane champs that roam, so okay. But I think this is kind of a buff to the item. So champions like Pyke and Pantheon and stuff like that want to build this item, they can get it really early and just be super annoying. Just clear all your vision and make sure that you can never leave your lane. They buffed Serpent's Fang. Honestly, like, when does anyone build Serpent's Fang? So we'll have to see if this is even like a thing. Maybe. I've seen it maybe in like once or twice in like the 10 days of this season. And then Kempunk Chainsword. 150 health now instead of 200. So they nerfed Kempunk Chainsword. I think this is a good nerf though, because it, like, as an item, if you want to go anti-heal, you don't really need the HP, you need to get it ASAP, so. But fine, cool, they nerfed it a little bit. Marksman legendary items, they buffed Phantom Dancer by 5% and they changed its build paths to have extra 100 gold. And then Runan's also same thing. So that's cool. You get extra 5% AD, sorry, attack speed. Awesome. Thumbs up, cool. Tank Mythics. Sunfire Aegis. So they buffed Sunfire. In my opinion, this is a big buff. So that is cool. Sunfire Aegis, actually, sorry, not buff. What did I say buff? Sunfire Aegis has been widely popular in contrast to the other tank mythic options, even though they seem similarly powerful in terms of win rate. Hope is by making separate lower price tier for other tank mythic items. They will have more occasions where they'll be purchased by support tanks and junglers. Yeah. So, okay, let me start my thoughts again, because I think I lost my train of thought and I started saying some random shit. So Sunfire, in my opinion, was pretty much the de facto item if you were a top lane tank. And I don't think many supports bought it. First of all, it's a really expensive item. So, like, it's really expensive to get it on support. And you might as well just get, like, a locket or some, anything. Moonstone, Shurelya's, anything that's cheaper. But then on top of that, I feel like 5 ability haste per legendary item is just not that useful. Like, ability haste doesn't scale as well the more and more you stack it. And support items already give so much ability haste that, like, stacking more ability haste is just like, okay, cool, I guess. But having something that you can't get in many other items does seem quite appealing. right now. Tenacity and slow resist per legendary item, you know? Like that does seem kind of appealing. So I won't completely retract my statement and say it's not a buff. I'll say it's like a change that's good for supports. Because tenacity and slow resist are really important on a lot of champions. But the only downside is it's still butt ass expensive. Like this like you're gonna be sitting there until like 20 minutes before you get this item on most supports. So there's a pretty big trade-off. But I like the tenacity slow resist. That's a really insane stat. Frostfire Gauntlet. They nerfed Frostfire Gauntlet's cost by a ridiculous amount. It's 400 extra cheapness you get on that bad boy. Wonderful stuff. Gave it extra ability haste, and they nerfed its armor a lot. So I assume they want this to be built on support tanks and junglers. Is that what they're saying? They want this to be built on support tank? I mean, it's much cheaper now, so it's much more accessible, but you get much less armor. But okay, I mean, cool. It's way cheaper, so a lot of people can now afford it. That's that, or an upgrade, same stuff. And then they did the same to Turbo Chem Tank. Now this change is a big deal in my opinion, guys. This change is a really big deal. So you know how they nerfed Trellias, or they didn't nerf it, but they nerfed it for tank supports. Now tank supports can look to Turbo Chem Tank as an item that they can actually build regularly. Because this is like only what? I think Locket is like 2400 gold, something like that. This is actually like comparable now. You know, it's not like completely out of reach. 3200 gold was a ridiculous amount of gold for support to get for their first item. The only downside is it actually doesn't give much MR anymore. It's like way less effective MR wise. But the ability haste, like instead of the tenacity slow resist, maybe again, I don't really care that much about the ability haste per legendary. It's not that big a deal. And you're not finishing many legendary items on support. You're not going to be getting this much from this anyway. I think I'm going to try and build it in some situations where I feel like I don't need Locket, things like that. When is the patch coming out? Most likely tomorrow, I believe. They usually release patch notes the night before. Okay, cool. Is that everything? ARAM, POG, everybody loves ARAM. And then all these client changes, and then a bunch of bug fixes, and then upcoming skins. Ruined Shyvana. Ooh. Okay, cool. Patch notes run down over.